Alright guys, got a little project today. I'm just taking a little break from all the orders and everything. Found some horseshoes. Found a local farrier, had a bunch of horseshoes, picked up 100 of them, gave me a good price on it. You can check him out. It's Finger Lakes Forge. He's certainly on Facebook. I'm not sure if he has his own webpage or not, but he obviously as a farrier, he's using farrier rasp, and he uses these Heller and something, I forget the other name of it. And he's also, you know, he's a blacksmith also, so he makes some really nice little neck knives out of them. But he's having a little trouble hardening out of the files that he's using. So the question is this file a good quality steel to use for a knife? And you know, some of the newer files, I mean, so far I've had a lot of good luck. Any of the files, any of the rasps that I bought, well, of course I'm buying the old rusty ones, right? They hardened well and they had a really good edge on them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of his pieces of a file that he gave me, and we'll go ahead and run some tests, and we'll see what we think about it. Is it good steel? Is it not good steel? Is it just case hardened? And then maybe I'll try reproducing one of his knives, because I thought they were pretty cool looking, or a variation of it anyway. So this is a good example of what I do quite often, because I'm reclaiming steel. I had a short video on some of the tests that I do, and I'll do those again today, but we'll do a little bit more. What's the steel I'm working with, and how well does it react? Is it water quench? Is it oil quench? A lot of these things we don't know, especially us guys that are scrounging in the scrap yards for some of our materials. You might not be able to say, oh, this is 1095, or this is this, or this is that, but you don't want to sell a piece if you don't have a lot of confidence in it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to see what we can determine about this file. You've seen probably dozens of videos on spark testing. We're going to go ahead and do this. Normally I like to use a grinding wheel with a grinding head on it. I think it gives a little better results. I got my belt sanded with a pretty rough grit, and I got it turned, you know, not the slowest speed. Well, not the slowest speed. So it's like medium speed. But let's see what we get for a spark test out of this. I'll zoom in on that a little bit, but you know what, again, as much as I know, we're looking for a pretty, with my fingers, a pretty small throw of the sparks. It shouldn't be shooting like crazy, and we're looking for those flares as close to the belt or grinder as we can. So let me zoom in and we'll see what we got. So to me, it's not like jumping out like crazy, but let's throw some 01. It's a piece of 01. Let's throw some 01 on the same test and see what we get. So as I was bouncing back and forth between the two of them, quite honestly, if I were to do a spark test, I would say that this file has a higher carbon content than this, and that's, again, I'm learning, right? I'm learning a lot, but I'm still in the learning stage. So it looks good. It looks, it almost outdoes the 01 in the spark test. But again, the spark test isn't overly scientific, but it's giving me an indication we got something going on here. An important thing to do is not just hit the outer edges. Make sure you grind in the middle, grind where it wouldn't be necessarily case hardened. And at this point it's looking okay. Just for a sanity check, let's just take a piece of mild and the farrier rasp, and we're close to the same thicknesses. The mild's a little bit thicker, and that'll affect how the sparks throw too. But let's go ahead and do a side-by-side comparison of that. look at here is how far away that spark flies before you see that flare or any flare whatsoever. And you're going to see, the way I'm reading it right now, the ferro-rasp has a lot of flares, and they're much closer to, well, they're very close to the piece when it's on the grinder, in contrast to the mild steel. I might play that back in slow motion to give you a better shot. Again, same conclusion. It's looking like this file actually is, to me, it looks like a good high carbon steel item. So let's move on to some other things. So the next thing I'm going to do with this is I'll go ahead and nip off a piece of it, and there's another video of me doing a very similar test to something different. I think it was the cable knife actually. Anyway, I'm going to nip off a piece. I'm going to forge that out. We'll go ahead and harden it. And we'll try water, and we'll try oil first, then we'll try water. Test that on the vise and see how it breaks or how it reacts. Do a little tempering and play that back. So let's go ahead and cut some of this off. Alright, so we're not going to need a huge piece for this test. We'll just grab a little bit of it. Just a little bit of it. The prettiest cut in the world, but you know what? We'll be alright. Dang. There we go. Got a little piece anyway. Now this isn't going to be exactly fair to the steel because we do have structural, because of the file grooves and things like that. It's going to affect some of the structural part of the steel. We're going to just draw this out a little. Just to give us a piece to test. Let's stretch it out a little. Alright, that's enough. So I gave myself, I don't know what, 2.5, almost 3 inches. Hopefully that's enough because I'm going to end up like trying to break this 2 or 3 times. So I'm just going to let this cool on its own right now. We're going to go to the vise, we'll throw a little bit in, and we'll see what happens right now. And then we'll harden it, see what happens, and we'll temper it back down. Alright, assuming that this isn't air hardening, which I certainly didn't have it at the right temperature to start that, but we're just going to put a little bit in here. Hopefully I don't need to take much of it. We're going to give it a bend and see if we can break or bend. Oh boy. Try it this way. Normally I like to do it by hand, but this is being stubborn, so we'll get down low. I don't want to waste my steel. And so that way, it's good. You can kind of see what's going on there. So we got a full bend over. I don't hear it crunching or cracking. So definitely not hardened in this state right now. Let's go ahead and try oil. Alright, so we have this thing up to a non-magnetic state, critical temperature. We're going to quench this thing in oil. Again, you've watched this video before if you watched the last one they did. Well, here we're going to take, here we're taking a rough piece and going all the way to the end with it. So we did the grinding test. Here's our quench. We'll hit it with a file. I think it digs in there. I mean, I can tell it's harder, but I can feel it. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it should. I mean, it's a little bit thick, of a piece. So if you're like hitting the edge of a knife after hardening it, very often it'll feel a little harder than maybe if you hit the spine. But I'm not overly impressed with it. I was actually able to dig in there. So, and again, as part of this test, we're going to use oil. We'll give it a try on the vise, and then we'll try water and see what results we get best. Which one gives the best results? All right, let's do the exact same test again with this. We'll give it a little bend, see what happens. So I'd say that's a pretty positive test. I don't know if I can focus on this, but there's a good granular structure in there, which is a pretty good sign in my mind. Again, I'm learning, right? So I don't know, do we even need to go to the water? I'm not sure. Let's spend some time with a file on it, eh? Could have been just the way I was holding it. I don't know. At this point, if I were in the middle of a project, I'd say, alright, we're going to oil quench it. Because if I'm making a blade and it'll harden in oil, but then I decide to go with water, that extra shock could cause that blade to crack. I'm actually thinking that oil is good. Let's just do water and see what happens. I was just going to go ahead and go right to the water test, but I decided, now that it's hardened once, I don't know, but I've heard of people hardening things multiple times. So we're going to go ahead and let this thing, we won't call it annealing because we're just going to let it cool once. So we'll normalize it. We'll throw it on the vise and we'll see if it bends. If it bends, we get back to a more soft structure, and then we'll go for the water, and that way we get a little bit better apples to apples comparison. Alright, this thing's cooled down a little bit. Let's go ahead and hit it with the file. We didn't do that at the beginning. Because that would give us a little bit of comparison. So I can certainly tell that it's softer than it was when I had hardened it in the oil. So we'll grab another little piece off of this thing. Let's see what we get. I expect it to bend now, right? It should be partially annealed. Yeah, it's bending just fine. So we've gone back to a soft state. Let's heat it up and quench it in water. Alright, we got it up to non-magnetic, critical temperature. We'll do a water quench. See what that does for us. Go back to the file. Let me zoom back for you here. Back to the file. Wow. Let's get on the vise where I had more pressure. Yeah, I mean that doesn't even feel anything like the oil did. Yeah, that feels totally different. But again, with such a hard quench like that, if I had an edge on this, would the knife crack, But let's go ahead and put it in the vise, see what we get for bending stress on it. Alright, my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, but I actually see a lot more granularity. quite honestly, with the last piece, geez, do I have it here still? Yeah, I do. Yeah, let's do this. We might be able to do a comparison for you. Let's do a comparison. Hopefully we can get enough focus where you guys can see that. And again, I'd have to go to Google just to confirm what I'm thinking, but a lot more granularity here in the water quench than in the oil. It's a finer pattern to that granularity there. So I'm assuming, and I'm sure you guys will tell me if I'm wrong, that this is probably a good indication. So I'm thinking that Heller file, that he's been having trouble getting a good edge retention after hardening in oil, is probably wanting to use water. Let's give it a go.